People walked past his cage without even slowing down. Some flinched, others whispered, "That one's dangerous. Stay away from him." The German Shepherd inside cell 27 had earned a reputation, the aggressive dog no one wanted, the one who lunged, snarled, and terrified even experienced handlers. The shelter staff had quietly begun calling him a lost cause. But everything changed the day Officer Daniel pushed open those heavy doors with his wheelchair-bound veteran father. Henry, the dog that attacked the bars at everyone, suddenly froze. His growls died in his throat. His eyes softened, because this wasn't just any dog, and this wasn't just any veteran. This was a reunion. No, one expected a bond broken by war. Now standing face to face again, because this dangerous dog suddenly wasn't dangerous at all. And the truth behind why will break your heart. What happened next shocked the entire shelter and revealed a heartbreaking truth no one was prepared for. Before we start, make sure to hit like, share, and subscribe. And really, I'm curious, where are you watching from? Drop your country name in the comments. I love seeing how far our stories travel. The shelter hallway echoed with anxious whispers every time someone walked past cage 27. Behind the metal bars stood a German Shepherd whose fierce growls made even experienced volunteers tense. He didn't just bark, he lunged, teeth flashing, eyes burning with distrust. Most visitors skipped his cage entirely, pretending not to notice the warning sign taped across the front. Aggressive. Do not approach. Staff members whispered that he was a lost cause, a dog too broken to save. No one wanted him. No one even tried. Officer Daniel pushed open the shelter doors with a quiet determination, his uniform still dusted from a long shift. He wasn't here on duty. This visit was personal. His father had grown lonely, and Daniel hoped a dog might bring light back into the old veteran's life. The receptionist greeted him warmly, but her smile faded when he mentioned adoption. "We'll show you the calmer dogs," she said carefully. Daniel nodded, unaware that destiny waited in the darkest corner of the kennels. Henry sat quietly in his wheelchair, hands resting on the worn blanket across his lap. Years of service had taken their toll. His body weakened. His spirit dimmed, but his eyes still carried the weight of memories he rarely spoke about. He once had a loyal service dog overseas, a partner who never left his side. Losing him broke something deep inside. Since then, silence had filled the spaces where companionship used to live. Daniel hoped a new dog might help heal the wounds no medicine could reach. As Daniel and Henry moved down the hallway, a shelter worker hurried toward them, worry etched across her face. "Before we continue," she said gently, "there's one dog you should avoid." She glanced toward the far end where metal bars rattled every few minutes, her voice lowered. "He's been aggressive since the day he arrived. Lunges at anyone who gets near. We're not even sure what he's been through." Henry listened quietly, but Daniel noticed his father's eyes drifting toward the source of the echoes drawn by something unspoken. Henry's hand tightened slightly on the armrest of his wheelchair. "I want to see that dog," he said, his voice calm but unshakably firm. The worker blinked in surprise, immediately shaking her head. "Sir, he's dangerous. We really don't recommend. I still want to see him." Daniel hesitated, recognizing the rare determination in his father's eyes. Whatever was pulling Henry toward that cage, it wasn't fear, it was something deeper. The moment they approached cage 27, a thunderous snarl exploded from behind the bars. The German Shepherd hurled himself forward, slamming into the metal with such force that Henry instinctively flinched. His teeth bared, his muscles coiled, eyes blazing with a mixture of fear and fury. Daniel instinctively stepped between his father and the cage, one hand raised protectively. "Easy!" he warned, though the command barely registered over the dog's frantic barking. The shelter worker backed away, whispering, "This is why no one gets close." Yet Henry didn't recoil. He just stared deeply. In the middle of his furious barking, the dog suddenly froze. His growl cut off mid-snarl, as if an invisible hand had pressed pause. His ears twitched. His breathing shifted. Slowly, he lowered his head and stared straight at Henry. Really stared, like he was trying to recognize a face buried deep in memory. Daniel frowned, glancing between them. What's he doing? The shelter worker whispered, stunned. He's never done that before. But Henry already knew something wasn't normal. The dog's fierce posture melted, replaced by a trembling uncertainty. His ears slowly lowered, and his eyes, once filled with rage, softened with something fragile and familiar. He took a cautious step back, as if overwhelmed by a memory he couldn't quite reach. Henry's breath hitched. "Easy, boy," he murmured, his voice shaking. Daniel watched in disbelief. "Dad, he's acting like he knows you." Henry didn't answer. His gaze never left the dog. Because in that moment, he felt it too. A flood of forgotten images washed through Henry's mind. Desert winds, distant gunfire, and a German shepherd racing beside him through the smoke of a battlefield. He remembered the night everything changed. An explosion ripping through their convoy. The world spinning, his body thrown to the ground. When he woke in the field hospital, they told him his canine partner had been lost in the chaos. Presumed dead or taken elsewhere, Henry never stopped grieving. That dog had saved his life more times than he could count. And now, staring through the bars at the trembling German shepherd, he saw a familiar scar near the dog's ear, the same scar his partner received during their final mission. His heart pounded. "This can't be," he whispered. Henry's hands began to tremble as he leaned closer to the bars, his voice barely holding together. "Buddy, is that you?" The name slipped out instinctively, carried by years of buried grief. The dog's ears perked at the familiar tone, his body quivering with confusion and hope. Daniel watched his father's eyes, fill with tears, something he hadn't seen since the day Henry came home from the war. "Dad, what's happening?" he whispered. Henry swallowed hard. I think this is my partner." The change was unmistakable. The dog, who had snarled at everyone, now lowered himself onto his belly, crawling closer until his nose pressed gently against the bars. A soft whine escaped him, broken, yearning, familiar. His tail trembled, not in aggression, but in desperate recognition. His chest rose and fell rapidly, as if he were fighting the urge to jump into Henry's arms. Shelter staff stared in disbelief. This wasn't the monster they dreaded. This was a soldier reunited with his missing handler. Henry reached out, voice cracking. "It's really you, isn't it, boy?" The shelter worker stepped forward slowly, eyes wide, as if she were witnessing something impossible. I don't understand," she whispered. "He's never acted like this. Not with anyone." Other staff members gathered around, stunned into silence as the once ferocious dog now whimpered softly. Pressing his head against the bars for Henry's touch, Daniel shook his head in disbelief. All this time, he was just waiting for him. The room felt transformed, fear replaced by awe. With careful hands, the shelter staff unlocked the cage, their voices hushed as if afraid to disturb a sacred moment. The door creaked open, and the German shepherd hesitated only a heartbeat before stepping out slowly. Trembling, eyes fixed on Henry, Daniel steadied his father's wheelchair as Henry extended a shaking hand. "Come here, buddy," he whispered. The dog closed the distance in a single breath, pressing his head into Henry's chest with a desperate, relieved whine. Henry's fingers sank into his fur, memories exploding through him. Sandstorms, missions, nights spent depending on each other to survive. Tears streamed down Henry's face as he held the dog close. "I thought I lost you forever," he choked, but the dog leaned harder, as if saying, "I never stopped looking for you." The shelter staff rushed to finalize the paperwork, barely containing their smiles. "I've never seen anything like this," one whispered as Daniel signed the forms. Moments later, the dog, now calm, loyal, and glued to Henry's side, walked proudly beside the wheelchair as if reclaiming his old duty. Outside, the sunlight warmed Henry's face as the dog rested his head gently on his lap. Daniel watched them, feeling something inside his father heal in real time. This wasn't just an adoption. It was a reunion fate had delayed but never denied. That night, Henry sat in his living room with his long-lost partner curled beside him, breathing softly against his leg. Daniel watched from the doorway, realizing he was witnessing more than a reunion. He was witnessing a man finding a missing piece of himself. The dog lifted his head occasionally, checking on Henry with the same protective gaze he once used on distant battlefields. Some bonds aren't weakened by time, distance, or pain. Some bonds survive explosions, separation, and years of silence. This dog wasn't aggressive because he was broken, he was grieving, waiting for the only person who ever truly understood him. Henry stroked the dog's fur, whispering, "You came back to me, boy." And the shepherd closed his eyes. Finally home. If this heartwarming reunion touched you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. More unbelievable stories of loyalty and second chances are coming, so stay with us.